Xylot's brow ridge furrowed as he reviewed the assignment details one more time, his four-fingered hands gripping the datapad with thinly veiled frustration. Of all the prestigious security details he had commanded over the cycles, this one involving a human family was by far the most undesirable. The Xylonian officer had witnessed firsthand the reckless and haphazard nature of these Deathworlders during his brief stint on the Galactic peacekeeping force. Their penchant for violence, their inability to follow even the most basic safety protocols, and their utter disregard for authority had made them the bane of every seasoned officer's existence. And now he was expected to not only safeguard this human family, but also escort them through the bustling heart of the Galactic capital. Xyloth let out a resigned sigh, his mandibles clicking in irritation. The mission briefing made it clear that failure was not an option. The human family consisted of high-profile diplomats and their offspring, and their safety was of the utmost importance for maintaining positive relations between Earth and the Galactic Union. With a tight-lipped nod, the Xylonian officer summoned his team of elite bodyguards and set out to fulfill his duty, however distasteful it may be. As the ground car glided smoothly through the towering spires of Orcs Prime, Xyloth kept a watchful eye on the city streets, his sharp senses attuned to the slightest hint of danger. The human family sat silently in the rear compartment, their features obscured by the tinted privacy screens. Xyloth couldn't help but feel a twinge of disdain. These soft, fragile beings were entirely out of their element here, and he knew it would take all of his skill and experience to keep them safe. When the ground car finally pulled up to the lavish diplomatic residence, Xyloth took a moment to size up his new wards. The human male, presumably the father, stepped out first, his brow furrowed in a perpetual frown as he surveyed the unfamiliar surroundings. Behind him, a young human child, no more than 8 rotations old by Xyloth's estimate, clung tightly to the hand of a tall, slender woman. Xyloth's attention, however, was immediately drawn to this woman. There was an undeniable aura of strength and authority about her, a quiet confidence that belied her delicate features. As she stepped out of the ground car, her piercing gaze swept over the Xylonian bodyguards, and Xyloth felt a shiver run down his spine. This was no ordinary human. This was a Deathworlder matriarch, a guardian whose protective instincts would doubtlessly rival the fiercest Xylonian warrior. "Greetings, I am Xyloth, Chief of Security for your stay on Orcs Prime," the Xylonian officer announced, bowing his head respectfully. "We have been tasked with ensuring your safety and well-being during your diplomatic visit." The human woman nodded, her expression unreadable. "I am Jessica Chen, and this is my husband, Richard, and our daughter, Lily." She gestured to the others in turn, her voice smooth and even. "We appreciate your dedication to our protection, but I must warn you, we are not like other humans you may have encountered." Xyloth's mandibles clicked involuntarily, his curiosity piqued. "I assure you, Mrs. Chen, that my team and I are more than capable of handling any threats that may arise. We have extensive experience working with diplomatic envoys from across the galaxy." Jessica's lips curved into a faint smile, her eyes narrowing ever so slightly. "I have no doubt of your abilities, Officer Xyloth. However, I would advise you not to underestimate the resilience and ferocity of a human mother when her child is threatened." With that, she turned and led her family into the residence, leaving Xyloth momentarily stunned. The Xylonian officer exchanged a puzzled glance with his second-in-command, Zara, before quickly regaining his composure and following the humans inside. As Xyloth conducted a thorough security sweep of the diplomatic residence, his mind continued to dwell on Jessica Chen's parting words. There was a subtle undercurrent of warning in her tone, a hint of something primal and fiercely protective that sent a shiver down the seasoned officer's spine. He had dealt with countless diplomats and envoys over the cycles, but never had he encountered one who seemed to carry such an aura of danger. Xyloth couldn't help but wonder, what exactly was he getting himself into by accepting this assignment? The human family's reputation for recklessness and violence was well known, but there was clearly more to Jessica Chen than met the eye. As he positioned his team of bodyguards around the perimeter, Phyloth knew that he would need to be on his guard at all times. Protecting these humans was not going to be the mundane task he had anticipated. Little did the Xylonian officer know, his world was about to be turned upside down. The true nature of humanity, and the lengths a Deathworlder mother would go to defend her child, was about to be revealed in the most dramatic and unforgettable way. Over the next few cycles, Phyloth and his team of Xylonian bodyguards maintained a constant vigil around the Chen family's diplomatic residence. They dutifully escorted the humans to their various meetings and events, ever vigilant for any sign of danger. Yet despite their best efforts, Phyloth found himself increasingly unnerved by the human matriarch, Jessica. There was an undeniable intensity to her gaze, a coiled spring of power that seemed ready to unleash at a moment's notice. Whenever their eyes met, Phyloth felt a prickle of unease run down his carapace. This was no ordinary human. This was a predator, a guardian fiercely protective of her offspring. As the days passed, Phyloth observed Jessica with growing fascination. While her husband, Richard, and young daughter, Lily, seemed content to quietly follow the diplomatic schedule, Jessica moved through the gleaming corridors of the residence with a sense of purpose and control that belied her delicate frame. She spoke little, but when she did, her words carried weight and authority, commanding the attention of even the most seasoned Xylonian officials. One evening, as Phyloth patrolled the perimeter of the residence, he noticed Jessica slip away from the formal dinner gathering. Intrigued, the Xylonian officer silently followed her, his keen senses alert for any potential threat. He tracked her movements to a secluded garden courtyard, where she stood alone, gazing up at the twin moons of Orcs Prime. Phyloth hesitated, unsure whether to approach or maintain his distance, but as he watched Jessica, he was struck by the subtle shifts in her posture. The way her shoulders squared, her chin lifted, and her eyes narrowed with a fierce intensity. It was as if she were drawing strength from the very air around her, readying herself for some unseen challenge. Mustering his courage, Phyloth stepped forward, his footsteps crunching lightly on the gravel pathway. Jessica turned to face him, her expression unreadable. "Officer Phyloth," she said, her voice low and measured. "I trust the security arrangements are to your satisfaction." Phyloth inclined his head respectfully. "Indeed, Mrs. Chen. My team has been vigilant in monitoring the perimeter and ensuring your family's safety." Jessica nodded, her gaze never wavering. "Good. I appreciate your efforts, but I must impress upon you the importance of staying alert. Orcs Prime may seem like a peaceful, civilized world, but there are many who would seek to do us harm." The Xylonian officer felt a twinge of unease. "I assure you, my team is more than capable of handling any threats that may arise. We have extensive experience in—" "I do not doubt your capabilities, officer," Jessica interrupted, her tone brooking no argument. "But you have not encountered the likes of us before. When it comes to the safety of my child, I will stop at nothing to protect her." Phyloth's mandibles clicked involuntarily as he processed her words. There was an undercurrent of steel in Jessica's voice, a primal edge that sent a shiver down the Xylonian's spine. He had faced many formidable opponents over the cycles, but the sheer intensity radiating from this human female was unlike anything he had ever encountered. "I understand your concerns, Mrs. Chen," Phyloth said carefully. "Rest assured, my team and I will remain vigilant. However, I must caution you against taking unnecessary risks. The diplomatic schedule is tightly coordinated, and any deviations could—" "Deviations," Jessica interrupted, her lips curving into a humorless smile. "Officer Phyloth, you clearly have much to learn about us humans. We are not bound by rigid schedules or protocols. When it comes to the well-being of my child, I will do whatever it takes, regardless of the consequences." Phyloth opened his mouth to respond, but Jessica raised a hand, silencing him. "I do not mean to undermine your authority or expertise," she continued, her tone softening ever so slightly. But I need you to understand that I am the guardian of my family, the protector of my offspring, and I will not hesitate to do whatever is necessary to keep them safe." The Xylonian officer felt a twinge of unease as he met Jessica's unwavering gaze. There was a primal, uncompromising quality to her words that struck a chord deep within him, awakening a newfound respect and trepidation. "I will. Keep your words in mind, Mrs. Chen," Xyloth said slowly, bowing his head in deference. "My team and I will remain vigilant, but I trust that you will also exercise caution." Jessica's lips curved into a faint smile, her eyes softening ever so slightly. "We shall see, Officer Xyloth. We shall see." With that, she turned and strode back towards the residence, leaving Xyloth alone in the garden courtyard, his thoughts swirling with a mixture of apprehension and growing admiration for this extraordinary human matriarch. The bustling Orcs Prime Galactic market was a stark contrast to the serene diplomatic residence, a cacophony of sights, sounds, and exotic scents that assaulted the senses. Xyloth surveyed the crowded promenade, his eyes scanning the throngs of diverse alien species for any signs of potential danger. As the Chen family stepped out of the ground car, Xyloth took his position at the rear of the group, his hand resting lightly on the hilt of his plasma sidearm. Jessica walked with a purpose, her gaze sweeping the market stalls with a calm, assessing gaze. Lily, the young human child, held tight to her mother's hand, her eyes wide with wonder at the unfamiliar sights around her. Xyloth couldn't help but marvel at the human family's composure. While many diplomatic envoys would have been overwhelmed by the sensory assault of the market, the Chens moved through the crowd with a practiced ease, Jessica's protective instincts clearly on high alert. As they approached a stall selling exotic fruits, Lily tugged on her mother's sleeve, her face lit up with excitement. "Mom, can we get some of those?" she asked, pointing to a cluster of iridescent purple orbs. Jessica smiled warmly, her expression softening. "Of course, darling. Let's see what the vendor has to offer." Xyloth tensed slightly as the Chens moved closer to the stall, his senses heightened for any sign of trouble. But as Jessica conversed with the vendor, a towering Blargen male, the exchange seemed amicable and uneventful. Suddenly, a commotion erupted from the far end of the promenade, drawing Xyloth's attention. A group of heavily armed individuals had emerged from the crowd, their weapons drawn as they charged towards the Chen family. Xyloth's heart raced as he shouted a warning, his team of Xylonian bodyguards immediately springing into action. They moved to shield the Chens, their plasma rifles at the ready, but Jessica reacted with lightning speed. In a blur of motion, she pushed Lily behind her, shielding the child with her own body. Xyloth watched in stunned amazement as Jessica's demeanor transformed, her delicate features hardening into a mask of resolve and fury. The human matriarch moved with a fluid grace that belied her fragile appearance, her hands lashing out to disarm the first assailant who drew near. Xyloth's mandibles clicked in astonishment as he watched Jessica effortlessly twist the weapon from the attacker's grip, sending it clattering to the ground. The Xylonian officer quickly joined the fray, his team unleashing a barrage of plasma fire to drive the assailants back. But even as the chaos unfolded around them, Jessica remained steadfast, her focus solely on protecting her child. Xyloth caught glimpses of Jessica's movements as she darted between the combatants, her bare hands striking with precision and power. She ducked and weaved, her form a blur as she disarmed and incapacitated one attacker after another, her protective instincts transforming her into a living, breathing force of nature. The Xylonian officer found himself awestruck, his training and experience as a seasoned warrior utterly outmatched by the sheer ferocity of this human mother. He had witnessed the deadliest of Xylonian combat specialists in action, but none possessed the raw, primal power that Jessica exhibited in that moment. As the last of the assailants fell, Xyloth rushed to Jessica's side, his four-fingered hands raised in a gesture of peace. "Mrs. Chen, are you and your family unarmed?" he asked, his voice laced with a mixture of concern and newfound respect. Jessica's chest heaved with exertion, her eyes still blazing with the remnants of her protective fury. "We are unharmed," she said, her voice low and steady. "But we must leave this place immediately. I will not risk my daughter's safety any longer." Xyloth nodded, his gaze sweeping the chaotic scene around them. "Of course. My team will escort you back to the residence post-haste." As the Xylonian bodyguards ushered the Chen family into the waiting ground car, Xyloth found himself struggling to process what he had just witnessed. The delicate human female had single-handedly taken down a group of heavily armed assailants, her movements fluid and effortless, her focus unwavering. Xyloth had heard the legends of human resilience and tenacity, but seeing it firsthand, witnessing the primal power of a Deathworlder mother in action, left him reeling. He had misjudged these humans, underestimated the depths of their capabilities, and he knew that his perception of them would never be the same. As the ground car sped back towards the diplomatic residence, Xyloth caught a glimpse of Jessica in the rear view, her arms wrapped protectively around her daughter. The Xylonian officer felt a newfound respect and admiration for this extraordinary human female, whose fierce maternal instincts had transformed her into a formidable warrior, a guardian willing to defy all limits to ensure the safety of her child. Xyloth knew that from this day forward, he would never again underestimate the power and resilience of the human species. They were not merely fragile, reckless beings. They were Deathworlders, survivors, and protectors, possessing a strength that transcended the boundaries of the physical realm. And as Xyloth considered the implications of this revelation, he couldn't help but wonder what other surprises the Chen family had in store for him. Xyloth's mandibles clicked in rapid succession as he replayed the events of the Galactic market attack in his mind, his four-fingered hands tightening into fists at his sides. He had spent countless cycles honing his skills as a Xylonian security officer, mastering the art of combat and protection, yet nothing could have prepared him for the sheer ferocity he had witnessed in Jessica Chen. As the ground car sped back towards the diplomatic residence, Xyloth stole glances at the human matriarch, his respect and trepidation growing with each passing moment. Jessica sat cradling her daughter Lily, her expression one of unwavering determination, her body coiled like a spring, ready to unleash her protective fury at the slightest provocation. Xyloth marveled at the transformation that had come over Jessica. Gone was the composed, measured woman he had observed in the days prior. In her place was a primal, unyielding guardian, a Deathworlder mother willing to defy all limits to ensure the safety of her child. "Mrs. Chen," Xyloth began tentatively, his voice tinged with a newfound deference. "I must commend your actions back at the Galactic market. Your display of skill and courage was truly remarkable." Jessica's gaze met his, her eyes narrowing ever so slightly. "I did what was necessary to protect my daughter," she replied, her tone clipped and matter-of-fact. "As a mother, there is nothing I would not do to keep Lily safe." Xyloth nodded slowly, his mandibles clicking in understanding. "I can see that now. I misjudged the capabilities of your species. Clearly, humans possess a resilience and ferocity that I have never before witnessed." A faint smile tugged at the corners of Jessica's lips. "We are a hardy people, Officer Xyloth. Centuries of adaptation and survival on our Deathworld have forged us into something more than mere fragile beings. We are predators, protectors, and when our young are threatened, we become an unstoppable force." The Xylonian officer felt a shiver run down his carapace at her words, their weight and gravity sinking into his very core. He had heard the stories, the legends of human tenacity and strength, but to see it manifest so vividly, so primally, was a humbling and awe-inspiring experience. "I can see that now," Xyloth murmured, his gaze briefly drifting to the sleeping Lily, her features peaceful and serene despite the chaos that had just unfolded. "Your daughter is truly fortunate to have such a formidable protector." Jessica's expression softened, and for a moment, Xyloth glimpsed the fierce maternal love that burned within her. "She is my world, Officer Xyloth. I would move mountains, defy the very laws of the universe, to keep her safe. Xyloth nodded, his respect for this remarkable human woman growing with each passing moment. I have no doubt of that, Mrs. Chen, and I give you my solemn oath that my team and I will do everything in our power to ensure your family's continued safety. Jessica's gaze searched his, as if seeking the truth of his words. Then, with a slight incline of her head, she seemed to accept his promise. As the ground car pulled up to the diplomatic residence, Hyloth sprang into action, his team of Xylonian bodyguards fanning out to secure the perimeter. Jessica remained by his side, her protective instincts on high alert, her eyes scanning the vicinity for any sign of further danger. Xyloth's mind raced, his thoughts a whirlwind of newfound respect and trepidation. He had witnessed firsthand the ferocity of a Deathworlder mother, a primal force that defied all logic and reason. And he knew, deep in his core, that he would never again underestimate the capabilities of the human species. As the Chen family was ushered inside, Hyloth took a moment to compose himself, his four-fingered hands trembling ever so slightly. He had dedicated his life to protecting the vulnerable, to safeguarding those in his care, but in the face of Jessica's unwavering maternal fury, he had felt utterly powerless. Yet, beneath the awe and unease, Hyloth found himself grudgingly admiring the human matriarch, her strength, her determination, her utter disregard for her own well-being in the face of danger. These were qualities that the Xylonian officer could not help but respect. "Zara," Hyloth called out to his second-in-command, his voice laced with a newfound sense of urgency. "Increase security measures tenfold. I will not allow any further threats to the Chen family, not while I still draw breath." Zara's mandibles clicked in acknowledgement, her own gaze reflecting the gravity of the situation. "It will be done, Xyloth. We will not fail in our duty." As the Xylonian bodyguards set to work, Xyloth couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that their commitment to the task at hand, their vast experience in security and protection, paled in comparison to the primal, unyielding force that was Jessica Chen. He knew, with a growing sense of trepidation, that the true extent of human capabilities had only just begun to reveal itself, and he could not help but wonder, what other surprises did this Deathworlder family have in store? As the Chen family was escorted back to the diplomatic residence, Xyloth's mind continued to reel from the events at the Galactic market. The Xylonian officer had witnessed firsthand the ferocity and protective instincts of a Deathworlder mother, and the experience had left an indelible mark on his psyche. Xyloth watched closely as Jessica tended to her daughter, Lily, her movements gentle and soothing despite the underlying tension that coiled within her. The human child seemed shaken by the ordeal, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and awe, but Jessica's calming presence quickly assuaged her distress. The Xylonian officer found himself transfixed by the bond between mother and child, a primal, unbreakable connection that transcended all barriers of species and culture. Jessica's unwavering determination to shield Lily, her willingness to put her own safety at risk, was a testament to the depths of a mother's love, a force that Xyloth had never before encountered. As the family was ushered into the secured residence, Hyloth positioned his team of bodyguards with a renewed sense of purpose. Gone were the lingering doubts and preconceptions. In their place, a deep respect and a determination to fulfill his duty to the utmost of his abilities. "Zara, I want constant surveillance on the perimeter," Xyloth instructed, his mandibles clicking with authority. "No one, and I mean no one, gets within 100 paces of this residence without my express authorization." Zara's eyes widened slightly at the urgency in her superior's tone, but she nodded without hesitation. "It will be done, Xyloth. We will not let our guard down, not for a single moment." Satisfied with his team's response, Xyloth turned his attention to the Chen family, his gaze settling on Jessica. The human matriarch stood tall, her eyes sweeping the security detail with a critical eye, and Xyloth could sense the coiled power that radiated from her. "Mrs. Chen," Xyloth began, his voice laced with a newfound respect. "I want to assure you that my team and I will do everything in our power to ensure your family's safety. After witnessing your actions at the Galactic market, I have no doubt of your own formidable abilities, but I hope you will allow us to support you in this endeavor." Jessica's lips curved into a faint smile, her eyes narrowing ever so slightly. "I appreciate your dedication, Officer Xylov, and I have no intention of undermining your team's efforts. However, I must make one thing clear. When it comes to the well-being of my child, I will stop at nothing to protect her." Xylov felt a shiver run down his carapace at the steel in her voice, the unwavering determination that burned in her gaze. "I understand, Mrs. Chen. Your daughter's safety is our highest priority, and we will work in tandem to ensure her well-being." Jessica nodded, her posture relaxing ever so slightly. "Good. Then we have an understanding." She turned her attention to Lily, who had been watching the exchange with a mixture of trepidation and awe. Kneeling down, Jessica pulled the young girl into a warm embrace, her voice soft and soothing. "It's all right, my darling." Xylov heard her murmur. "You're safe now. _M_ here." The Xylonian officer felt a pang of something akin to longing as he observed the tender moment between mother and child. In all his cycles of service, he had never known the depths of a parent's love, the fierce, uncompromising drive to protect one's offspring. It was a bond that transcended all differences, a primal connection that resonated within the very core of his being. As Jessica rose to her feet, Xylov caught a glimpse of the raw, powerful emotions that flickered across her features, a mix of relief, determination, and an unwavering commitment to her daughter's well-being. In that moment, the Xylonian officer knew that he would do whatever it took to ensure the safety of this remarkable human family, no matter the cost. "We will remain vigilant, Mrs. Chen," Xylov said, his voice laced with a quiet resolve. "I give you my word that no harm will come to your daughter, not while my team." And I still draw breath. Jessica's gaze met his, and for the briefest of moments, Xylov saw a flicker of understanding pass between them. It was as if, in that instant, the human matriarch recognized the depth of his dedication, the newfound respect and admiration that had taken root within the Xylonian officer. "I'll hold you to that, Officer Xylov," Jessica replied, her lips curving into a faint smile. "For Lily's sake, and for the sake of your own team, I sincerely hope you succeed." With that, she turned and ushered her daughter inside, leaving Xylov to ponder the gravity of the task that lay before him. The Chen family was no ordinary diplomatic envoy, and protecting them would require a level of dedication and vigilance that the Xylonian had never before encountered. But as Xylov took his position at the perimeter, his senses heightened and his resolve unwavering, he knew that failure was not an option. For in the face of a Deathworlder mother's protective fury, he had witnessed the true power of the human spirit, a force that demanded respect, and one that he was determined to honor with every fiber of his being. As the days passed, Xylov found himself increasingly captivated by the Chen family, his understanding of humanity evolving with each new interaction. Gone were the preconceptions and biases that had once colored his perceptions. In their place, a newfound respect and a deep fascination with the remarkable capabilities of these Deathworlders. The Xylonian officer observed Jessica and her family with a keen, analytical eye, cataloging every subtle shift in their behavior, every nuanced display of strength and resilience. He marveled at the ease with which they navigated the diplomatic functions and social engagements, their composed demeanor belying the primal power that simmered just beneath the surface. Yet it was in the quiet moments, when the Chen family retreated to the privacy of their residence, that Xylov gained the most profound insights. He watched as Jessica interacted with her daughter, Lily, a profound tenderness and protectiveness evident in every gesture and every word. The human matriarch's unwavering dedication to her child's well-being was a sight to behold, a testament to the depths of a parent's love that transcended all cultural boundaries. Xylov found himself drawn to these intimate moments, his own upbringing as an orphan Xylonian, sparking a deep yearning within him. The bond between Jessica and Lily was a revelation, a window into a world he had never known, and the Xylonian officer couldn't help but wonder if his own life might have taken a different path had he been blessed with such a fierce, unyielding guardian. As he pondered these thoughts, Psylocke's gaze would often drift to the scars that marred Jessica's skin, faint reminders of her past trials and tribulations. The human matriarch bore the marks of a warrior, a survivor, and Psylocke found himself marveling at the resilience that had forged her into the formidable guardian she had become. It was in these moments that the Xylonian officer's understanding of humanity began to shift, his preconceptions slowly crumbling in the face of overwhelming evidence. These were not mere fragile, reckless beings as he had once believed. They were predators, forged in the crucible of their deathworld, possessing a strength and tenacity that defied all logic. Psylocke's conversations with Jessica only served to deepen his appreciation for the human species. The matriarch spoke of her homeworld with a reverence that bordered on reverence, her words painting a vivid picture of a planet teeming with lethal flora and fauna, where the very air itself could prove fatal to the unprepared. "Our world is a paradise, Officer Xylov," Jessica had said, her eyes alight with a passionate intensity. "But it is also a constant struggle for survival, a battlefield where the weak are swiftly culled. It is this unforgiving environment that has shaped us, that has forged us into the resilient, adaptable beings we are today." Xylov had listened, his mandibles clicking in fascination, as Jessica described the treacherous landscapes, the predatory creatures that stalked the land, and the tenacity required to eke out an existence on such a hostile world. The very thought of such a place filled the Xylonian officer with a sense of awe and trepidation, and he found himself questioning the validity of his own homeworld's reputation for harshness. "We are not mere fragile beings, Officer Xylov," Jessica had continued, her gaze unwavering. "We are the apex predators of our world, the guardians of our species, and when our young are threatened, we become an unstoppable force, willing to defy even the laws of the universe to ensure their safety." Xylov had nodded slowly, his respect for Jessica and her family growing with each passing moment. The stories he had heard, the legends of human resilience and tenacity, had always seemed exaggerated, the product of an overactive imagination. But now, in the face of Jessica's unwavering determination and the awe-inspiring display of power he had witnessed at the Galactic market, the Xylonian officer knew that he had been grossly mistaken. As he stood watch over the diplomatic residence, his senses ever alert for any sign of danger, Xylov found himself contemplating the true nature of humanity. These were not fragile, reckless beings as he had once believed. They were survivors, guardians, and protectors, possessing a strength that transcended the boundaries of the physical realm. And as the Xylonian officer steeled his resolve, his commitment to the Chen family's safety growing with each passing day, he knew that he would never again underestimate the formidable capabilities of the human species. For in the face of a Deathworlder mother's unwavering love and fierce protectiveness, even the most seasoned Xylonian warrior was but a mere shadow, a pale imitation of the true power and resilience that dwelled within the human heart. As the days turned into cycles, Psylocke's admiration and respect for the Chen family only continued to grow. The Xylonian officer had witnessed firsthand the extraordinary capabilities of these Deathworlders, and he found himself in awe of their resilience, their adaptability, and their fierce protective instincts. Xylov had spent countless rotations honing his skills as a security specialist, mastering the art of anticipating threats and neutralizing them with precision and efficiency. But in the presence of Jessica Chen, he felt a profound sense of humility, his experience and training paling in comparison to the primal power and unwavering determination that emanated from the human matriarch. The Xylonian officer found himself routinely reevaluating his approach, constantly seeking new ways to bolster the protection and security measures around the Chen family. He knew that failure was not an option, that the consequences of letting his guard down could be catastrophic, not just for the diplomatic envoys, but for his own team as well. Xyloth's days were filled with a heightened sense of vigilance, his senses perpetually attuned to the slightest disturbance in their immediate environment. He and his Xylonian bodyguards scoured every inch of the diplomatic residence, meticulously searching for any potential vulnerabilities or blind spots that could be exploited by would-be attackers. Yet, even with their extensive precautions, Xyloth couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that his team's efforts were merely a facade, a futile attempt to control a force of nature that was beyond their understanding. For in the face of Jessica Chen's maternal fury, the Xylonian officer knew that his own considerable skills and resources paled in comparison. As he stood watch over the Chen family, observing their daily routines and interactions, Kyla found himself drawn to the quiet moments shared between Jessica and her daughter, Lily. The tenderness and protectiveness that radiated from the human matriarch was a sight to behold, a testament to the depths of a parent's love that Xyloth had never before experienced. The Xylonian officer's own upbringing as an orphaned foundling had left him with a deep yearning for the kind of familial bond that the Chens shared. He watched, transfixed, as Jessica soothed Lily's fears, her gentle touch and soothing words a stark contrast to the primal fury he had witnessed on the Galactic market. In those quiet moments, Xyloth caught glimpses of the softer, more vulnerable side of the human matriarch, a side that belied the formidable warrior he knew her to be. And as he observed these intimate exchanges, the Xylonian officer found himself grappling with a newfound sense of respect and admiration for Jessica, a respect that went beyond the realm of duty and protocol and delved into the depths of the human experience. One evening, as Xyloth made his rounds, he encountered Jessica in the residence's private garden, her gaze fixed on the twin moons of Orcs Prime. The Xylonian officer hesitated, unsure whether to intrude, but Jessica's soft voice beckoned him forward. "Officer Xyloth," she said, her tone tinged with a newfound warmth. "I'm glad you're here. There's something I'd like to discuss with you." Xyloth approached cautiously, his mandibles clicking in acknowledgement. "Of course, Mrs. Chen. How may I be of assistance?" Jessica turned to face him, her expression serene, yet Xyloth could sense the underlying tension that coiled within her. "I wanted to thank you, Xyloth, for your unwavering dedication to our family's safety. I know it has not been an easy task, and I appreciate the lengths you and your team have gone to ensure our well-being." The Xylonian officer felt a surge of pride at her words, his chest swelling with a newfound sense of purpose. "It is my honor to serve you and your family, Mrs. Chen. I give you my solemn oath that I will do everything in my power to protect you, no matter the cost." Jessica's lips curved into a faint smile, her eyes searching his. "I know, Xyloth, and that is precisely why I feel the need to speak with you, to ensure that you understand the full extent of what you are committing to." Xyloth's brow ridge furrowed in confusion, his mandibles clicking rapidly. "I'm afraid I don't follow, Mrs. Chen. What do you mean?" Jessica sighed, her gaze drifting back towards the moons. "As I told you before, Xyloth, when it comes to the well-being of my child, I will stop at nothing to protect her. I will do whatever it takes, even if it means putting myself in harm's way, or defying the very laws of the universe." The Xylonian officer felt a shiver run down his carapace at her words, the weight and gravity of her statement sinking into his very core. "I understand, Mrs. Chen. And I assure you, my team and I are more than capable of." Jessica raised a hand, silencing him. "I have no doubt of your capabilities, Xyloth. But I need you to understand that there may come a time when my own actions put you and your team at risk. When that happens, I need you to know that I will not hesitate to do what is necessary to ensure Lily's safety, even if it means—" She paused, her expression darkening. "Even if it means going against your orders." Xyloth felt a pang of unease, his mandibles clicking in rapid succession as he processed her words. "Mrs. Chen, I cannot condone. I'm not asking for your condemnation, Xyloth," Jessica interrupted, her voice low and measured. "I'm asking for your understanding, for your trust, because when the time comes, I will need you and your team to have my back, no matter the consequences." The Xylonian officer's gaze locked with hers, and for a moment, he saw a glimpse of the raw, primal power that simmered beneath the surface of this extraordinary human female. He knew, without a doubt, that Jessica Chen was a force to be reckoned with, a guardian whose protective instincts transcended all logic and reason. And in that moment, Siloth knew that he would do whatever it took to ensure the safety of this Deathworlder family, even if it meant defying his own code of honor and putting his own life on the line. For in the face of a mother's unwavering love, the Xylonian officer had found a newfound respect and admiration that knew no bounds. As Tyloth made his way back to the Xylonian Security Command Center, his mind swirled with a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. The conversation with Jessica Chen had left a profound impact on the seasoned officer, shattering his preconceptions and forcing him to confront the true depths of human resilience and protective instincts. The Xylonian's mandibles clicked in rapid succession as he replayed Jessica's words, her unwavering determination to safeguard her daughter Lily at all costs ringing in his ears. Siloth had faced many formidable opponents over the cycles, but never had he encountered a force of nature quite like the Deathworlder matriarch. Entering the command center, Siloth was met with the expectant gazes of his team. His second-in-command, Zara, stepping forward with a questioning look. "Siloth, what have you learned?" she asked, her tone laced with a hint of concern. "Your expression suggests something grave." The Xylonian officer took a deep breath, his four-fingered hands clasping behind his back as he addressed his team. "My fellow officers, I come to you with a newfound understanding, one that will undoubtedly change the way we approach this assignment." Siloth paused, his mandibles clicking as he sought the right words. The Chen family is no ordinary diplomatic envoy. They are Deathworlders, survivors of a planet so harsh and unforgiving that it has forged them into something more than mere fragile beings. Zora's eyes widened at his words, her own mandibles clicking in a mix of fascination and trepidation. "Deathworlders. You mean the legends are true?" Siloth nodded solemnly. "Yes, Zora, and I have witnessed their power firsthand. Jessica Chen, the human matriarch, is a warrior unlike any I have ever encountered. Her protective instincts are primal, uncompromising, and she will stop at nothing to ensure the safety of her child." The Xylonian officer turned his gaze to the rest of his team, his expression grave. "I need you all to understand the gravity of our task here. These humans are not to be underestimated. They possess a resilience and tenacity that transcends the boundaries of the physical realm, and they will defy even the laws of the universe to keep their young safe." Murmurs rippled through the command center, the bodyguards exchanging uncertain glances. Siloth raised a hand, silencing them. "I know this is a lot to process, but we must be prepared. Jessica has made it clear that she will not hesitate to put herself in harm's way, or even to go against our orders, if she deems it necessary to protect her daughter." Zara's mandibles clicked in alarm. "But Siloth, that would be a direct violation of our protocols. We cannot allow." "I am well aware of the protocols, Zara," Siloth interrupted, his voice firm. "But in the face of a Deathworlder mother's protective fury, our protocols and training may prove woefully inadequate." The Xylonian officer paused, his gaze sweeping over his team. "Which is why I am asking you all to be prepared to make sacrifices, to be willing to defy even the strictest of orders, if it means ensuring the Chen family's safety." Silence fell over the command center, the bodyguards exchanging uneasy glances. Siloth knew the weight of his words. He was essentially asking his team to disregard their sworn oaths, to put their own lives on the line in service of a family that, until recently, they had viewed as mere fragile diplomats. "I understand the gravity of what I am asking," Siloth continued, his tone softening ever so slightly. "But these humans, this Deathworlder family, they are unlike anything we have ever encountered. And if we are to fulfill our duty, to protect them at all costs, then we must be willing to go beyond the limits of our training and our protocols." Zara stepped forward, her mandibles clicking with a mixture of uncertainty and resolve. Thyloth, you know we trust your judgment. If you believe this is necessary, then we will follow your lead, but we must be prepared for the consequences." The Xylonian officer nodded, his gaze hardening with determination. "I am aware of the risks, Zora, but I have given Jessica my word that I will do whatever it takes to ensure the safety of her family, and I intend to keep that promise, no matter the cost." As Thyloth dismissed his team and returned to his post, his mind drifted back to the conversation with Jessica. The human matriarch's unwavering resolve, her absolute commitment to her child's well-being, had left an indelible mark on the Xylonian officer. And he knew, without a doubt, that he would never again underestimate the true nature of humanity. These were not mere fragile, reckless beings as he had once believed. They were survivors, guardians, and protectors, forged in the crucible of a death world that demanded the utmost resilience and tenacity. And in the face of a Deathworlder mother's primal fury, even the most seasoned Xylonian warrior was but a mere shadow, a pale imitation of the true power that dwelled within the human spirit. As Thyloth took his position at the perimeter, his senses heightened and his resolve unwavering, he knew that the true test of his understanding and commitment was yet to come. For in the days and cycles ahead, he would be called upon to witness the full extent of human capabilities, and to decide whether he was truly prepared to stand alongside these remarkable beings, even if it meant defying the very foundations of his own existence.